And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tidal Flooding Talk, brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition in conjunction with our broadcast partner at TriX57. I am here with Palma Shiles, Dan Skeldon. I'm Joe Martucci. The gang is back together. Palma, good to see you again.
Glad to be here.
So we're getting into middle of November here. For me, and this is maybe I'm already doing my one thing I can't stop talking about, but I am in the middle of ShopRite free turkey season right now. You spend $400, you get that free turkey. Dan, I know you're in Allentown. You guys have ShopRites there? What do you have Weiss? What's going on in Allentown?
We have ShopRites. Well, we have my favorite grocery store. It's in upstate New York, Wegmans.
Oh, yes, I know.
We have in Central and North Jersey as well. So yeah, we have a plethora of them, and yeah, we're doing the turkey points as well, though.
Okay. Did anyone get the turkey yet? Are we at turkey status?
No, not yet.
Well, I am not hosting because I'm moving soon, so I'm off the hook this year.
Okay. Or you can get like the lasagna, like the big lasagna, the hen, I think, whatever. Anyway, nothing related to Tidal Flooding Talk there, but congratulations on your move, Palma. And if you need any help moving, I guess our Tidal Flooding Talk family is here to help.
And at the very least, Palma will give you a nice moving forecast. So we'll make sure moving day is like
that would be great.
Right.
That would be great.
So our guest for tonight, he might be able to help Palma out. He is related to Palma's first cousin, but he is on the other side of the country. So he has a good excuse to, hey, listen, I can't really help you move. We're here with Jesse Peri. He is the chief of the Stinson Beach, California Fire Department. Part of the reason why we've been doing this on Zoom, Tidal Flooding Talk, is so we can go national with our guests, and doesn't get much national than the other side of the coast. So Jesse, welcome to the show, and tell everybody where Stinson Beach is in California.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Joe, Dan, Palma. It's great to be on. Stinson Beach is just north of San Francisco. It's a small little coastal town, about 45 minutes across the Golden Gate Bridge, down a windy road. Very, very sleepy in the winter times, and then in the summer times, it's the Bay Area's playground. We get everybody from all the major Bay Area cities out for a nice long stretch of coastal beach out here in California.
So, being related to Palma and having this seasonal, shift here in Stinson Beach sounds like pretty similar to the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, very much so. Well, my mom was a resident of Ventnor, so she moved halfway across the country, but she couldn't get that far from the ocean. So she found the very next best thing out here in California.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, we're really looking forward to having you here and chatting with you over the next half hour or so. Tell us about your role as fire chief and how it could relate to the tidal flooding, that you do see on the West Coast.
Yeah. So for us, we're pretty much the only governmental organization in our little coastal community. And so that means we assume all risk responsibility. So when we say we're the fire district, we're much more than that. We respond to medical aids, structure fires, vegetation fires. And over the last several years, it has morphed into storm response and storm surge. Ironically, this morning, this wasn't planned out, I don't think, by you guys, but we have king tides in our community, and we had significant flooding events.
We had nothing to do with it.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah.
So it's very much in our wheelhouse and part of our response, and we develop lots of plans around it. And our little town is unfortunately getting hit and anticipated to get even harder by some tidal flooding.
What are the?
Now I'm sure where you are. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, go ahead, Paula.
You're known for both like wildfires and then also coastal tidal flooding. So how do you balance planning for both of them? And do you think you're more prepared for one or the other?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that we're more prepared for either. We have a hill to a mountain behind us and the ocean in front of us, and different seasons and different changes bring their individual unique challenges. We just have to be ready at a moment's notice for either. Luckily, they tend to be seasonal. So we get to shift our wildland fire gear off the rig, and transition to our water gear in the wintertime. But as what happened down in LA last year, wildfires becoming more of a year-round threat than it has in the past.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Jesse, like what are the seasons? Like on the East Coast, we have hurricane season and then it shifts to nor'easter season. So kind of tidal flooding is a year-round threat.
Hmm.
You kind of alluded to there, wildfires becoming a little more of a year-round threat. What's the storm and the tidal flooding threat like on the West Coast?
Yeah, I would say it's more consistent in the winter time is our bigger threat, and that's when we have our winter storms come through. The atmospheric rivers have increased in number and in intensity over the last, I'd say, 5 years. And so if you tie that in with our king tide season, which is notoriously November through February, when those all align, that's when we get our biggest significant environmental impacts.
I'm just kind of looking at the climate of Stinson Beach here, and it says that you average 0 inches of precipitation in July, which is just wild. I can't
Yep.
imagine averaging zero. But then in December, 8.3 inches, 7.7 inches precipitation, January, and 7.8 in February. I guess what I'm trying to get at is sunny day tidal flooding. That flooding that doesn't have anything to do with the storm here. Is that something that you see too, or is it really something that's really during the winter? I know you said the winter season is more of that season, but do you get any of that flooding during the summer, or is it's no? Okay.
No, it's rarely. Occasionally, I'd say we might have some high tide events, but in my experience, it's all during winter and storm season, and when they kind of collide. Yeah, because we don't have rains in the summer, we don't have and we don't have our storm surge, which is another element that brings up that level of water.
What's that like? Not raining for like 6 weeks. Like what's life like during those 6 weeks?
I would say Stinson, as opposed to the rest of California, is very unique as we get the marine layer that comes in. So we still get a lot of moisture in those summer months. It's just not traditional rain.
Right.
But yeah, it's summertime in California. It's
Yeah.
exactly what you think it
Car washes must be buzzing at that time.
would. Yeah, exactly.
So is it easier, Jesse, to, because the tidal flooding, those type of events hit during the winter season, probably less population, probably like, locals,
Yeah.
we have the problem on the East Coast where sometimes the tourists are as knowledgeable about tidal flooding as the locals are. You guys kind of don't have that problem, right? Because during your peak season, the weather is quiet.
Exactly. And I couldn't imagine how you guys do it because we get influxes of 8 to 10,000 people to our town that has 700 houses, right? So to imagine having to coordinate that transient population is just a lot. So yeah, wintertime usually, depending on the season, I'd say we get a lot of it's a short-term rental community as well, and so we have a larger influx, but not those day visitors like you think of classic Ventnor or Atlantic City beaches like you guys have.
All right, we're going to take a brief break here. We'll come back on the other side with Jesse Peri on Tidal Flooding Talk.
Hello, welcome back. You are watching Tidal Flooding Talk, and we are brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, who would like to remind our viewers that flood hazards act fast. They're not just an inconvenience. Floodwaters can cause fires, contamination, and serious structural damage. If severe flooding is expected and officials recommend evacuation, don't wait, just go. Have an emergency plan in place, prepare for the worst, and prioritize safety above all else, which I'm sure Jesse can speak on because I mean, I don't know what it would be like evacuating Stinson Beach or even advising people, that it could get to that. What is your experience with your residents or even visitors if it were to come down to that?
Yeah, I think our biggest threat is when a couple of different factors align, and that is swell direction. So we're getting some pretty intense waves from storms off coast, and I mentioned that storm surge, which elevates already high tides a little bit higher, and king tides. And unfortunately, over twice in the last 5 years, we've had to place evacuation orders and warnings for a large area of our community. So it is a real thing. We have pre-plans for it. We have our messaging that goes out to the community via various sources. And like I said, a lot of folks are short-term rental renters, and they're not prepared, like a local living down by the beach would be.
But do you get much resistance from your locals if there is an evacuation order?
Yeah, I wouldn't say resistance. I think a lot of people respect our knowledge of the water and respect our forecasting, and they've seen what it can do. So in every evacuation, you're not going to get a 100% compliance, but I would say for the most part, we've had some pretty good people respecting our orders.
And I see, Jesse, I'm just kind of familiarizing myself via Google Maps where you
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
How is the evacuation like? Are you pretty like one way in, one way out, like some of our barrier islands along the Jersey Shore, or do you have
Yeah.
a little more luxury of multiple routes in and out, and maybe a little more time therefore, and a couple more flexibility in evacuating people in the worst case scenario?
Yeah, down by the beach, there's a whole network of specific areas that is one way in, one way out. And if you can look on that map, it's a peninsula, and basically all the way towards the land end of the peninsula is where we get our greatest flood threat. So our situation is we get storm surge flooding from the ocean and tidal flooding from what we call the lagoon, but I imagine it would be Bayside for you guys. And that pinch point becomes a very big reality for the folks in the homes living in that area. But what it also does is it isolates the entire peninsula distal to that, from emergency response being able to come in, from ambulances being able to take people out, and during these events, like I said, they're storm events. So we have to develop contingency plans to get people over that area. And we've developed some creative ones. One is via the beach, which surprisingly sometimes has access when the street doesn't. And another one is inflatable boats that we will pull people across the floodwaters with.
Really? Tell us more about the inflatable boats.
Yeah, so we have a robust water rescue program because we respond to all the water emergencies. And a couple years ago, after we've had some significant floodings in that pinch point, it's probably a 50 to 100 foot stretch that gets flooded that vehicles sometimes can't travel through. And so we place boats on either side, and we can shuttle people across if they were ever in need of an emergency.
Wow. Oh,
And
well,
we've done it. I can't say that there's been critical patients, but there's been some minor stuff that we've shuttled people across before.
sure, sure.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you're kind of the only government agency in Stinson Beach.
Mhm.
So, is there anyone that, like, other agency outside of Stinson Beach that you do work with or
Yeah.
prepare
Yeah.
for a coastal storm?
So we're a fire district, meaning we're hyper local to Stinson. Taxpayers kind of pay us directly for fire and emergency response. We're technically a part of unincorporated Marin County, so all of the land that we serve is essentially the responsibility of Marin County. They just don't have resources in the community, right? So when it comes to potential sea level rise flooding and tidal flooding, we work with them very closely to develop our plan. And we, as a community, have developed a long range planning committee where we're engaging with the county to identify steps and mitigations moving forward as we continue to see increase of threat from sea level rise.
You say unincorporated community. That's such like a foreign word for us here in Jersey, because every square inch of New Jersey is owned by a municipality.
A city.
So
Yeah.
like every square inch in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So like when you say, like, it's just like a weird concept. Like even for me, like I think I remember, this is off topic, but I was like 16 years old. I was talking to somebody from Iowa who was like my age, and he was talking about going to his, he was like, how do you ride your bike to your friend's house in the next town? I'm like, I don't know. It's just in the next town. He's like, that's like 10 miles away. I'm like,
Yeah.
New Jersey. It's like literally just you cross. You wouldn't even know if there wasn't a sign. So it's just interesting there. But anyway, let me get back on topic here. When you talk about, obviously you're on the West Coast, right? Is there anything that you take from what's just being done on the East Coast to the West Coast in terms of emergency response, and then vice versa? Is there something that you see that happens, with emergency response on the East Coast? You're like, why don't they do it this way?
No, I think it's really interesting because the East Coast, specifically with fire, has a robust volunteer response model, and that's what we are. So I think when I look to the East Coast, I look at them as leaders in normalizing what volunteer response can do for the communities. I would say less in an emergency response capacity and more in tidal flooding. The last time I was in Ventnor, which was a couple of years ago, I noticed the dune restoration underneath the boardwalk. That probably was a long time ago, and I'm just a little bit out of the loop. But that is one of the biggest recommendations that we have from the studies that we have, is increased living shore and increased dunes to combat some of the coastal storm surge that we get. And so it's definitely a strategy that is being considered in our community.
Good, Palm.
Yeah, I think, well, over here, I think that there was resistance to the dunes for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
my mom hates it.
by the DEP, yeah. And the argument was that we get mostly like bay flooding. But I mean, when there's a hurricane, that ocean, I mean, if there's video of it from Sandy, and it's like, I mean, I would want a dune in front of my house.
Yeah.
Might be a hot take for some people.
Yeah, well, people always want to see their they want the ocean view, and that's what they pay for, so I understand that. But I think most beach towns at this point, I feel like they just built the house so high it's like over the dune. Like I know, like in Monmouth Beach in Monmouth County, they had this right after Sandy where the residents did not want that seawall to be completed. On the same time, the thing is, like, water is a liquid, it's not a solid. So if there's an opening in there, it's going to flood, it's going to go right through there. So they built the wall, and now the houses all in Monmouth Beach, they're just 40 feet high instead of 30 feet high, or whatever the number is. So anyway, we're going to take one more break. We'll come back on the other side with Tidal Flooding Talk. Thanks to the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, your flood insurance bills are lower and your streets safer from the reality of flooding. Since beginning in 2013, we build more resilient shoreline communities. Our member towns develop and share in best practices that anticipate future concerns and create flooding solutions. From our town-specific free web app for flooding information to our weekly Tidal Flooding Talk show, we focus on flooding 24/7. Visit www.njcoastalcoalition.com for more.
Well, welcome back to this week's Tidal Flooding Talk, along with Palma Shiles and Joe Martucci. I'm Dan Skeldon, where we continue our conversation with Stinson Beach Fire Chief Jesse Peri, kind of contrasting and the similarities and differences between West Coast and East Coast. And Jesse, I want to ask you, we're constantly on Tidal Flooding Talk giving tips of preparedness for, owners, homeowners, and visitors along the shore. What kind of tips do you offer your residents and vacationers down there as far as preparedness goes and safety from the various hazards that you face?
Yeah, I think the big thing is to just know forecasting, and really we try and engage with our community to get them to anticipate and to be in line with National Weather Service alerts so that we can all be ready. The next big threats that we have, like I mentioned, are access, and in ensuring that people can get out. So identifying when flooding events are about to occur. If you don't have to come out to the beach, then try and avoid the area. And third is just safety in and around floodwaters. A unique thing that we have here in Stinson Beach is septic systems or on-site wastewater systems, meaning all of the waste in the houses in our community do not go into a centralized sewer system. They're dispersed in leach fields on the site. So when floodwaters go into those areas, there's a whole health hazard with walking in and around floodwaters. So between that and just the lack of visibility and vehicles driving into ditches when you can't see, it's a lot of education about floodwater safety.
Now, what is it like training new firefighters or new first responders in terms of your flooding events?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because a lot of us have grown up in and around coastal communities, and some haven't. And so what I like to say is it's hours in the element, and understanding tides, understanding what the ocean does, understanding what the lagoon does, and so it's acclimating them to try and come up with 20 years of life experiencing in and around the coast. Uh, and as best as we can. But lots of task books, lots of training, and just getting people involved.
Got it. Um, do you have any like specific memorable events, from your career that you think are interesting? And then, what do you think going forward? Like, what's next in terms of emergency preparedness in your mind?
Yeah. Well, I think the storms of 21, 22, waves broke over the beach dunes essentially and into the communities, and they did some significant damage to the first houses. It happened to be I think I was 6 months on as fire chief at that point. So it was my first big incident to command, and we were fortunate to have a lot of resources come in from outside the community to help us out. And that would be probably the biggest one, in identifying that the community hadn't been prepared for that in a very long time. The last storm, I think, major storm was in the 80s, so lots of new homeowners came in through that. So ever since that, there's been a big, huge push to educate homeowners and get people up to speed. And the next year, we had the events again. The second part of your question, I believe, is what do you expect? We expect that to happen more and more. Today, like I said, there was a king tide event. None of us expected the floodwaters to get where they did, and it was in specific areas some of the worst that we've ever seen. And this was a minor storm with minor high tides, and this is the first of the year. So, we're anticipating more of this. We have to be strategic about our evacuation plans. We have to be strategic about the apparatus that we buy, ensuring that air intakes are higher and we can drive through floodwaters when we need to, because that's unfortunately a new reality for us.
Is it challenging being the only kind of municipal like agency like within your community? If you're on Absecon Island, you got the Ventnor, tons of Atlantic City, Margate, Long. Like, you got plenty of response agencies. So
Hmm.
I'm sure you're used to it and you're very well trained. But is that a hindrance or is that a benefit to kind of be your own department and know your community without any other agencies around?
Yeah, it's a benefit because we're in and around. I live in the community, so we're in and around, and we know the personalities. It's a hindrance when you don't have the resources when you need them. And so, from an incident commander standpoint, you have to have plan A, plan B, and plan C, and know your trigger points of when you're engaging them because the lag time it takes for resources to come is 20 to 30 minutes in our case. And so I have to make a judgment call. Yeah, are the cavalry really needed? Because if I hit the button, they will come. So that is the idea, and that's the challenge.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, thanks so much for joining us here today. We're not done with you yet. We're going to do the one thing we can't stop talking about. But where could people get more information about Stinson Beach and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, stinsonbeachfire.org is our website. Always stopping by the station if you're around. We're happy to engage with folks, and it's a beautiful coastal community. So if you happen to be through San Francisco, it's just a 45-minute drive north, and it is well worth your while. I recommend you guys come out if you're
Sounds
around.
like we're going to have to talk to Tom Quirk, our boss here, about a tidal flooding talk on location in
There
Stinson.
you go.
See what we can do. All right, so we're going to do the wrap up that we do every week. The one thing we can't stop talking about, tidal flooding or otherwise. Palma, will kick it off with you.
All right. I think I can't stop talking about when the next time Jesse's going to come visit over here.
She's putting you on the spot, Jesse.
We got. I don't know. Maybe a next summer. We'll see what we can do.
Okay. All right. Good. Dan?
I just Thanksgiving coming up, so talking about menus and which desserts and which pies to make and all that fun holiday stuff. And also can't stop talking about when is it too early for Christmas music to pop on the radio. I'm an earlier guy, not this early, but a little before Thanksgiving, but something my wife and I battle about all the time. So that's what we're talking about here.
I have a very easy answer. Mine is after Thanksgiving dinner.
Like that night? Or
yes, when you're driving home, or I guess when everybody leaves, that is when Christmas music is allowed. Anyway, here's my one thing I can't stop talking about. It's going to be about our guests. So Jesse, your mom worked for the Grateful Dead, I heard. That's awesome. Have you met the Grateful Dead? Do you guys get like unlimited Cherry Garcia all the time from Ben and Jerry's? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, definitely met them. I grew up in a Dead household. My parents joke that I rebelled against them by cutting my hair short and putting on a badge. Yeah, the house is always filled with Dead music, and we have two little ones now, and they're being indoctrinated too. We send them down to the parents, and they come back in tie-dye outfits. So,
okay,
yeah.
All right, wow, yeah, that was super awesome. I think Palma, you and I were talking about. I think you brought this up like even what was it, a couple of weeks ago, right? At one of we were talking about the Ventnor Beach concert or something.
Oh yeah.
Because there was, I think, there was the Grateful Dead tribute band that was there. So.
They're pretty good too. But yeah, my Aunt Francine definitely made all of us Deadheads over here too. So
does your Aunt Francine approve of this Grateful Dead, the one that was in Ventnor a couple months ago? Does she know of this tribute band?
I'm sure she knows of them, but I don't know. I think she would approve.
All right,
she approves of them. Nothing's better than the real thing, she says. But
right, I can imagine
going on to the next generation.
All right, Jesse, we'll wrap it up with you here. What's the one thing you can't stop talking about?
One thing I can't stop talking about right now is when I'm going to be able to get my socks dry because I've been walking around in flood waters all day. But
good one.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having us on. I appreciate the cross community link up. It's really cool to hear everything and to join this conversation. So thank you guys.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, and we'll look forward to maybe seeing you in person here when we come to New Jersey. And thanks so much for being on with us at Tidal Flooding Talk. We'll wrap up this week's episode. We'll be back with you next Tuesday. We're always on every Tuesday. New episodes there at 7 p.m., but you can watch it whenever you'd like. For Jesse, Palma, Dan, I'm Joe. We will chat with you guys next week. Thanks again for watching Tidal Flooding Talk.